What's up, Cougs? I am your host, Noah Bolter, aka Squabbo of Unorthodox Sports, here on KUGR's YouTube channel, also broadcasting on KUGR's radio station. Thank you all for tuning in. If you're here on the YouTube channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below. We are broke college students bringing you guys some great content. We have so much exciting stuff to talk about today, including the Seahawks' huge win on Monday Night Football, as well as Cougar basketball starting 2-0, Cougar football. Are we going to be able to play at USC this week? Regardless, we are giving you our keys for the game. Later on in the show, we are talking about our betting odds that we made for the Thanksgiving slate of football games. And we are talking the delay of the Baltimore Ravens versus the Pittsburgh Steelers even more, and we are making our NFL power rankings, our top sevens heading into this week of the season. So many exciting things to talk about. I also have an unpopular opinion I want to bring up to the rest of the panel, but I am not here to do the show by myself. Also with me today on my left shoulder, Mr. Asher Lind. Asher, great to have you on the show.
Great to be here again, Squabbo and Aaron. I know it's going to be another good show. I'm excited to hear this. I'm excited to hear this unpopular opinion of yours.
Yes. Once we get on to the Seahawks, I'm really curious to hear both of your guys' opinions. On my right shoulder, Mr. Aaron Monson. Aaron, once again, great to have you.
What's up, Squabbo and Asher? Good to see both of you guys again. I'm excited to be here, and I'm really intrigued of what this unpopular opinion is, to be honest with you.
All right.
Very intrigued.
We'll get there in just a little bit. First, I want to talk about some Wazoo men's basketball. It is back. We are 2 games into the season. We have a game against Oregon State coming up soon. I want to kick it to Asher, our residential Wazoo basketball expert. Asher, can you give us an update on where the Cougars are at this point in the season?
Yeah, so like you said, they started 2-0, not against the greatest competition. It wasn't the prettiest games either. Their last game against Eastern, I think Eastern had 8 eligible players, I think, because of their COVID regulations, and a bunch of people were sick. And they actually made it a pretty close game because Washington State wasn't able to shoot it very well. And that's kind of what I wanted to get into, is the biggest thing that stuck out to me. The first 2 games, the lack of effective shooting. Isaac Bonton is the leading scorer so far, and that's probably a given. We all expected that coming in, and he's averaging 20 points over the first 2 games, which is really good out of your starting point guard, especially in a Power 5 conference. But he's shooting 24% from the field and 25% from 3, so definitely not a number that we want to see stick around. I think he will improve it, and I think he should aim to get to at least 40% from the field, something like that. I think 50-40-90 would be an awesome goal for him, because that's something I know a lot of people in the NBA try to go for: 50% from the field, 40 from 3, 90 from the free throw line. And he's definitely a capable free throw shooter, but just being able to extend that range and getting that percentage up is really big. Another big thing is one of the new freshmen we have, F.A. Abogidi, and I saw on Twitter people don't know how to pronounce his name, and so he fixed it, or he helped us. He said on a Zoom meeting, it's Abogidi, and so I'll remember that moving forward when I call basketball, because it looks hard to pronounce on paper. He's shooting 80% from the field, and it's a lot of inside looks, but having a forward able to be that efficient is really big for WSU. And I really like to see what Kyle Smith does. He has a very different style from Ernie Kent in the first couple years that I was here at Washington State, and I think he's done a really good job with this recruiting class and some of the guys left over from the last year Kent was here, and so I'm excited to see. But it'll be scary moving into Pac-12 play against Oregon State, even though they lost a couple guys, and Trace Tinkle, one of the guys they lost to the NBA, signed with the Lakers. You'll need to shoot better than 24% from the field against a Pac-12 opponent for sure.
Aaron, can we get your thoughts on the current state of Washington State University men's basketball?
So I'm comfortable with where we're at. A 2-0 is a good start, but I feel like we should be beating Eastern by more than 3 points, to be honest with you. I mean, we're a very capable Pac-12 team. We did great in our Pac-12 division last year. We won a lot of games because Kyle Smith's first year here, I say he did a fairly great job as his first year head coaching at Wazoo. But I also have a very unpopular opinion. Some people may not agree with me on this about Wazoo basketball. And that opinion is that Bonton should not start. He should not start ever.
What?
The decisions he makes on the basketball court, throwing up the ball at random times to the hoop, it is the ugliest thing I've ever seen in my life. This man just throws up the ball, hoping and praying for miracles. Like, if you watch during the game, he will just throw up junk from the most awkward position. He'll throw it up and just be bricks. He's so hit or miss, and, like, he's so hot and cold. And I would rather see Ryan Rapp start or DJ Rodman start over him at the point guard position, just because the decisions he makes is going to end up being costly. But
I mean, the numbers would definitely support that theory. I'm not sure if I would agree the fact he should start. But when you shoot 24% as a starter, I mean, you have to go back to something.
It's awful.
Yeah, he's shooting that percentage for a reason.
Well, and I feel like it's about team offense. Kyle Smith, he came in and he said with this new system he wants to spread the floor. We need to get guys open looks, and we need to move the ball around more. I agree. Bonton at times has made mistakes. Like, he's a Russell Westbrook type of player. Sometimes not the best decision maker. Sometimes puts up a bad shot, but he's also our best player. And Russell Westbrook.
He's our best player. Hold on. You think he's our best player?
In the backcourt.
Who do you think's our best player?
Like in general?
Backcourt. No. In general, I'd say
Noah Williams.
Noah Williams,
no doubt.
The guy with my
Noah
name.
Williams.
I'm about to talk about his defense, but I'm talking about in the backcourt specifically. Bonton.
I still think he'd do a better job than Bonton. No, dude, I think Noah Williams would do a better job at the point guard position than Bonton does.
Williams is our defensive stud. If we want to put a big in our backcourt, I could see that potentially. But I like Bonton. I want to see us get him more involved. He's the big name heading into the season. He has extremely high potential, and he can be a really good shooter. Asher's over here talking about 50, 40, 90 if we can get him there.
There's no way he gets anywhere near 50, 40, 90. The maximum I see him getting this year is 30, 35, and he's a great free throw shooter. I'll give him that. He does make his free throws, so I'll give him 85% at the free throw line. I'm impressed by that. He makes his free throws whenever he goes. It's awesome. Free throws are so important. But dude, it just feels like we have no depth at the point guard position, especially when Bonton's playing. He just is so frustrating to watch. I don't think he should be starting. I think Noah Williams would do a better job. I think Ryan Rapp, because Ryan Rapp doesn't just throw up random garbage, and Ryan Rapp likes to pass the ball more than Bonton does, and it's so frustrating for me.
Yeah, I can see that. For sure. And 50, 40, 90 might definitely be wishful thinking for any college player for that matter. But I've seen Bonton shoot. I've seen him at the gym a couple times. Like before they closed everything, I would see him and Coach Smith just at the rec center, just putting up shots. And he is a good stroke. He just needs to find. I don't know. I'm not an expert on basketball by any means. I don't think yet, but I think he just needs to find a way. And it's also a small sample size. We're only 2 games in against.
Yeah, but he did the same thing last year. Whenever he got the ball, he would throw up risky, dumb shots. And so he hasn't changed. And that's why I'm worried about him starting.
We'll see. But he isn't afraid of the moment, though. Remember in the Clay game, he had 38 points.
Right, but that was the one game. Right, it needs to be more consistent. He needs to be more like CJ and just more consistent throughout the season. Where CJ,
I wouldn't disagree with that.
CJ oozed consistency, and whereas Mr. Bonton over here likes to throw up horse crap and miss all the time.
We need to give him more consistent, get him good looks, and we need to encourage him to only take those good looks. I agree with that. We need to fix his decision making, but I don't think we should bail on him. Like you said, we've seen his ceiling. He's able to put up a lot of points, and he's able to do it in a hurry if we're able to get him right. I feel like that's the way to go, at least for now. Like you said, we are only 2 games into the season. New coaching staff. Let's see if we can't get this thing turned around for Pac-12 play at least.
Yeah.
Bail on Bonton, says Aaron.
Well, I just don't think he should be starting. We play him, but he shouldn't start.
So as a 6-man role, do you think kind of the role that they were talking about of Melo if he were to join the Lakers, kind of the comes in off the bench, can give a spark to the offense? I could see that role potentially, but I'm not ready to go there just yet.
He's just not consistent enough for me. And that may just be me, but I have talked to a few people that have agreed with me, saying that Bonton throws up garbage shots all the time, and it's just frustrating because a lot of the time none of them go in.
All right. Well, is there anything else you guys want to add about? Well, we should talk about how we think we are going to play this season. What do you think is the ceiling for Wazoo basketball this year? Let's go to you first, Asher.
So we lost a lot of key players last year with CJ going to the league, getting drafted. Shout out to him, by the way. That's so cool that we saw another Cougar get drafted, and he wanted to go to Portland too, so that worked out. Losing CJ was really big for us, but getting Coach Smith and Coach Smith's amazing coaching staff, in my opinion, plus getting all these recruits, plus having Bonton if he can get more consistent, I don't think they'll win the Pac-12 by any means, but I think they could get to the second round of the Pac-12 tournament because they beat Colorado handily in the last game of the tournament before it got canceled, and everyone was expecting WSU to lose by double digits, and then they ended up beating Colorado by 13, I think, somewhere in there. And so I think they're at least I think second round is their floor. I don't know what their ceiling is because it's a low sample size and they haven't played anyone in the Pac-12 yet, but I think we'll get a better idea of that in the next couple weeks.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Aaron?
I definitely think that we're going to be a middle to middle upper part of the Pac-12 this year, just because losing players like CJ Ellaby, who basically was who was the best player on our team when we had him at the time, and losing a big guy like Jeff Pollard, where Jeff Pollard he was so coordinated with how he played in the post, and like his short game shots were phenomenal too. Like Jeff Pollard was a great solid big dude to have down there, and it sucks that he graduated. But having I did like Markovetsky, who's 7'1", and you can definitely tell over the offseason this guy bulked up. Like he definitely put some muscle on him, and he's a little bit more coordinated because I remember watching him last year. He dropped a lot of passes that were right to him, and it was really frustrating. But it was only because he was his first year here. Like they just brought him over from, is it Ukraine? Is that where he's from?
I think so.
Ukraine. I think it's Ukraine.
Somewhere over there.
Yeah, some in Eastern Europe, and I think he's going to do a great job as long as because he's starting to run the floor a little better too. I remember last year he would lag a little bit behind, but I think we can definitely be in the upper to middle to upper part of the Pac-12 this year if Abogidi keeps doing what he's doing, and Noah Williams keeps doing what he's doing as well. I think it's going to be a very satisfactory year for Cougar basketball.
It'll be very close at the top, I think. I just want to add that, too. There's a lot of talent in the Pac-12 this year with Arizona State and them playing Nova as close as they did with Josh Christopher. Oh, my goodness. I've seen a couple of their games. They look for real. All right.
Stanford and North Carolina today, too. Really close game right there. I agree with you guys. I think we'll be a little bit more middle of the pack. I think we got to rely on the bigs. We got to rely on Noah Williams. Defensively, hopefully he can keep drawing charges when it matters the most down the stretch in some of this Pac-12 action. So that kind of wraps it up for men's basketball. Lots to look forward to. Bright future. We'll see what happens when Pac-12 basketball comes back. All right. Pac-12 football, though, the Wazoo Cougars are scheduled at least to play at USC on Sunday. We're going to give you guys our keys to this game. Caden Slovis has had a pretty good season. USC is a ranked opponent, and Wazoo has struggled at least this year against these opponents and in the past as well. But I want to get our keys to the game, and I'll go to you first. Aaron, let's get your keys. Wazoo at USC.
Well, to be fair, we have only played one ranked opponent this year, and it was Oregon, and they were very good. But so that was and honestly, we played a great first half, and if we can play against USC like we did the entire game, the first half against Oregon, I think that we'll be sitting good because Jaden DeLaura had some great throws, and our run game was absolutely off the charts. Do we know if Borgie's going to be back yet, by the way, for this USC game?
He has got to be close.
It's got to be close, right? But we don't know for sure.
I think he's getting there, but I think McIntosh is slated to start again.
Okay, well, either way, I'm comfortable with McIntosh starting because he's definitely proved himself as a solid starting running back.
I agree.
Yeah, and if our defense plays like we did that first half against Oregon too, I think we're going to be sitting real pretty. And if Jaden DeLaura can, make great throws like he does with this weird throwing motion, if he connects, if he can, rushes for some yards. And gets if we do the QB sneak thing more often with him because we can because he's fast and small and agile, I think that we're going to win this game. I think we have a decent chance.
Asher.
My first key is play a complete game without any phantom calls. I'm thinking about the last time we played a ranked USC and a certain linebacker from USC kind of took out Gardner Minshew and still upsets Cougs fans, myself included. And I feel like that really messed up our chances of winning because the field goal from Mazza was blocked that game and we lost by 3. And it was super upsetting because they played a really good game up to that point. It's a no call there. But just playing a complete game, I think, against especially a ranked opponent, because we saw, like you mentioned, Aaron, they played essentially one good half against Oregon and then didn't show up second half. You need 2 good halves, especially against a team like USC. And then Deion McIntosh, another one of my keys. Even if Borgie can't go, because Borgie is a really dynamic running back, and I think he adds a lot of a lot of options to the offense. I think McIntosh needs to be as dynamic as he has been because, like you said, he's proven to be a solid running back. And then another thing, when your matchups in your secondary, we saw our cornerbacks get burned by Travis Dye, their running back, and then all the other receivers one-on-one. Because I looked at it, and 4 of USC's receivers were either ranked number 1 or number 2 in the state of California in high school for wide receiver. So they're absolutely loaded at wide receiver, and so we need to make sure we win those matchups because they can burn anyone if they want to. But making sure we know what we're doing. If we do decide to play zone, knowing your role in there, not getting any blown coverages, because we saw what that does against Oregon. So winning your matchups in the secondary is going to be probably the biggest key for me.
Yeah, I wonder if we'll play a lot more zone defense, like you said, just because of if they have the number 1, number 2 wide receivers in the state of California, then we might not be able to keep up with them. So,
yeah, and the stats only go so far. You kind of have to use the eye test sometimes to see how really good or how accurate the stats are. I mean, they certainly got those rankings for a reason. I don't want to discredit them, but being able to take kind of using that as like an advantage, like a mindset of like, okay, this is the number 1 guy from California. Like use that to your advantage. Like come in with an underdog mentality and just fight and go do what you can do. So because I know we have a good secondary who is definitely capable of making some plays. Like Aiden Hector isn't a secondary player, but we saw what he could do against Oregon. Three turnovers in 1 half. Like that's definitely the ceiling for WSU, and that's a pretty high ceiling considering the defenses we've seen from WSU in the last couple of years. So being able to get plays like that,
very true.
So being able to get plays like that, I think will be really huge because Slovis has been having a really good year so far, like you mentioned, Bravo. So if we can get turnovers from Slovis and at least do decent in our one-on-one matchups in the secondary, I think we'll be good.
Yeah, I agree with your guys' keys about this game. The wide receivers for USC. This is a really talented USC roster, first and foremost.
Top to bottom, they got some talent for sure.
Keaton Slovis has been phenomenal. Their pass rush is incredible. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Drake London, these are wide receivers that we need to be prepared for heading into this matchup. I think our first priority in this game should be to run the ball with everyone. Week 1 against Oregon State, we were so successful. Travell Harris was rushing it. McIntosh was rushing it. If we get Borghi back, which we're probably not, but obviously we need to get him involved. And Delora, or if Delora was somehow unavailable, even though he is, Gunnar Cruz, I don't want him to be mobile. Cameron Cooper, I don't want him to be mobile. Whoever our quarterback is, I want them to be mobile. We need to run the ball. We need to control the clock, and we need to keep the ranked opponent off the field. How about that? So that our defense doesn't have as many problems to solve at the end of the day. We need to run screens offensively to slow their pass rush. USC's pass rush can be relentless at times. How do you beat that? By throwing screens. Utah threw a pick off a screen to USC, so don't miss the throw, but if you get your running back or your receiver open, there's going to be some potential to do some major damage to that defense. So let's run screens to slow down that pass rush and to make them think twice. Also, what running the football does. And finally, defensively, I agree we need to run a lot of zones. We need to mix things up because they run a lot of crossing routes as well. And the way to beat crossing routes is not by chasing the play, but by being in front of it. But also we need to disguise our defense defensively because if Keaton Slovis sees something at the line of scrimmage that he can take advantage of, he's extremely good at that, and those receivers are phenomenal at running after the catch. So we need to slow that down by disguising our defense and running zone defensively. So once again, my 3 keys for the game this week: run the football, run screens to slow the pass rush, and disguise the defense and run a lot of zone. Do you guys want to make some predictions for this game? Let's give scores for this game. Aaron, let's go to you first. Who do you have winning, and what's the final score?
Okay, so USC being a top 25 team and the Cougs not being up there makes me a little bit nervous, right? But honestly, because we're not playing Oregon, and I feel like Oregon is a much better team than USC as of right now, just because of their quarterback and a couple of their running backs. I honestly think that we can beat USC, but it's going to be really close. And it's not going to be an insanely high-scoring game. So I'm thinking 24-21 Cougs. That's going to be mine.
Asher, let's go to you.
As much as I want the Cougs to win, I don't know if I can go against the USC receiving court, like I mentioned, and the fact that they are a top 25 opponent and they get the home field advantage, quote unquote. So they usually do pretty good at home, and they've done well against the Cougs. So I'll say 30-24 USC. I think both teams get it offensively, but I think USC will just be too much for WSU.
Well, Asher, we are on similar pages. I say Cougs lose, unfortunately, 34-27. I think USC is on a mission this year, and they're trying to play for the Pac-12. So we'll see how that finishes out. Either way, it should be a good football game, and Wazoo definitely should have a chance. Let's shift now. Let's talk about the Seahawks' huge win just yesterday on Monday at the Philadelphia Eagles. Lots of controversy. Apparently before the game, Jim Schwartz goes up to DK Metcalf and says he's not quite Megatron. Well, DK Metcalf took that personally and went off for the most yards of his career, 177 on 10 catches, no touchdowns in the game. But DK Metcalf currently leads the NFL in receiving yards, which leads to my unpopular opinion, excuse me. And I'm dropping a video about this tomorrow on my YouTube channel at DJSQUABO, but I believe DK Metcalf has the tools and the potential to be the greatest wide receiver of all time. And if he is able to maintain his current level of play for an additional 18 years, which I agree is ridiculous and I don't think it will happen, but I believe he will be the best receiver of all time.
So to clarify, you think he can be, or you think he will be? Because I think I don't think
he will be. I think he can be.
Okay.
I think he 100% can be. I think he will be a top 5, top 10 wide receiver all time by the time he's done.
Okay, well, I don't think that's super unpopular, to be honest with you. I think
top 5, top 10 all time.
That and the fact that he has the potential, because based on the comparisons he got coming out of college, like everyone saw, okay, this is basically Megatron 2.0. So I feel like a lot of people look at that, like the eye test tells people, okay, this guy with a quarterback like Russell Wilson could definitely make some noise in the NFL. Like assuming he stays healthy and he gets another good 5 or 6 years out of Russell Wilson, then absolutely, yeah, he could be a top 5-10 receiver, if not the best. Granted, there's been a lot of people like the Jerry Rices of the world and the Megatrons, for that matter, and the Randy Mosses of the world will definitely have something to say. But this is only his second year, and he's definitely got the potential. I don't disagree with your opinion, I should say, because we saw there's a thing on ESPN they put out after the whole Jim Schwartz thing and saying he's not Megatron. He's played 27 games, and he has more yards, more catches, and more touchdowns than Calvin Johnson did in 27 games. So I think he has the chance to not only overtake Megatron as receiving, but I think he could be the top receiver by the time he's done. I think he could be the best too. I don't think that's a hot take per se.
Okay, first of all, it still is a hot take. Just because you agree doesn't mean it's not a hot take.
That's fair. I mean, based on, I feel like when people see DK Metcalf,
top 5, top 10
think
all
about
time.
His ceiling. I don't think it's crazy to say he could be a top 10 receiver by the time he's done.
Top 10 all time, and I'm saying for years he's going to be the best wide receiver in the NFL. Like you said, he's already on pace, or he's already doing better than Calvin Johnson to this point in his career. Statistically, he's on pace with Jerry Rice in terms of his stats to finish this season in terms of receiving yards, receptions, and touchdowns in his first 2 seasons. They're pretty close. Not perfectly caught up, but very close, within 2 touchdowns and within 100 yards per se. Aaron, what do you think about this opinion? Will DK Metcalf be top 5 or top 10 all time?
Man, it's just a lot to think about, because if you think he's going to be better than Jerry Rice, it's like you think he has the potential to be better than Jerry Rice.
Absolutely.
The best wide receiver ever, as of right now.
The reason being because, first of all, he's, like I said, he's already statistically relatively close, if not fully caught up to Jerry Rice. for their first 2 seasons of playing, and DK Metcalf has the size and capabilities that Jerry Rice never had. The reason that I don't think it's going to happen, that he becomes the best player of all time, is because DK's style is much more physical, so I don't think it lasts as long. And that's why the longevity argument, you'll still have Jerry Rice.
Right.
But I think in their primes, DK definitely has the potential to be the best player of all time. If he's able, there are a couple things that he needs to fix, and if he fixes these things, I think this will help him get him there. He has to fix his mental lapses, and that's in the running game, and in the blocking game, and in the receiving game. He drops too many passes. He makes the difficult ones, but drops the open ones. We saw that once again, dropping touchdowns every single week. Your number 1 wide receiver all time can't do that. Also, missing blocks. We saw him on 4th down this week, missed a huge block on the jet sweep to David Moore that cost us a drive and cost us points, just because he had a mental lapse and missed that block. So, and we've seen times in the past earlier weeks this season where he's missed crucial blocks that have cost us yardage, if not games. And because of that, DK Metcalf has to fix those mental lapses, in my opinion. But if he does, definitely top 10 all time, arguably top 5. There's a lot of really good receivers. The Randy Mosses
really
of the
are.
world, Terrell Owens, Chad Ochocinco.
Isaac
Bruce.
I think is top 5, really?
I'm saying a lot of. I'm just listing really good receivers, top 10.
Okay, all right.
Larry Fitzgerald, Randy Moss, Chris Carter.
Okay, all right. I wouldn't disagree. He could be a top 10, but like you said, if Jerry Rice played for 19 seasons, okay, so if DK wants even a slight chance of getting to that number 1 spot, he needs to fix those mistakes that you listed, and he needs to play for at least 12 or 13 seasons, I feel like. At least, to even have a remote shot at being the best wide receiver ever and playing just absolutely off the rocker amazingly he has been so far.
Agreed.
Yeah, and the big thing I saw that you kind of mentioned too, Noah, is the physicality of DK Metcalf, because we all look at DK Metcalf and think, oh my gosh, like what an absolute large human being. You know, like we saw it against Philadelphia, how cornerbacks just literally bounce off of him, and he just starts running it down the field. Like we do not see that from a lot of guys outside of maybe like Megatron or tight ends, even like people like Gronk or Travis Kelce, just shoving people out of the way and not even having to try to do it. And so the longevity thing will be a thing. And another thing, too, is part of DK Metcalf's success has to be credited to Russell Wilson, as great of a quarterback as he's been, because he doesn't get those 177 yards without Russell Wilson being able to find him for all those passes. And so Russell Wilson will only be in his prime for however much longer, like so much longer Russell Wilson will be in his prime. And what happens after Russell Wilson, I don't know. Seahawks fans probably have never even thought about life after Russell Wilson.
I haven't.
For Seahawks. And you probably shouldn't, because he's playing like at MVP level right now.
Yeah.
He's not the front runner right now because of the last couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But he's still a top 5 quarterback in the league. And so you keep running with that for as long as you can. But there comes a time when Russell Wilson will have to retire and you go, okay, next guy up, who's it going to be? Is it going to be a guy with a ceiling like Trevor Lawrence, or is it going to be a guy with a ceiling of like a Tim Tebow or a Johnny Manziel, whose game didn't really translate to the NFL? And so there's definitely part of that goes into the longevity and production of DK Metcalf. But that's a ways down the road. A lot of people should just cross that bridge when he gets there, you know.
So we agree on DK Metcalf then. He is on his way to a very historic and should be a first ballot Hall of Famer, without question. Let's talk now about Seahawks at Eagles and our reactions to that game. Aaron, you're the Seahawks fan, so let's go to you first. How do you feel about the Seahawks win on Monday Night Football?
So I remember you saying how we needed to win the turnover battle against the Eagles. I remember this clearly. And guess what? We won the turnover battle. It was great, dude. And that was just one of the keys that I think won us that game. Russell Wilson, played pretty average for 230 yards and a touchdown. He did all right, But DK just going absolutely off the 177 yards, out-muscling every single guy that tried to get in his way, averaging 17.7 yards a catch, dude. Are you joking? As soon as he gets the ball, it's a first down. It's honestly just an incredible thing what he does, dude. And like our defense played halfway decently, I mean, it wasn't as bad as we have been. We only allowed 250 yards, which is almost half of what we normally allow. So that's huge, right? I think it's just but we did play the Eagles, to be fair. And seeing Carson Wentz, he played like I didn't expect him to rush as much as he did. Like, I was surprised to see him running for like the first down, that 4th and 6 or whatever they had, like the third quarter or something. But it was impressive. Like, I didn't think he had that in him. But Chris Carson had a touchdown, which was good to see. All in all, I'm okay. I'm pretty much just neutral on how this game went. Like, I expected us to win. We won, but not by much. But I'm overall satisfied.
You know, I really want us to start taking the points early on in the ball game. If we took the field goals both times, it would not have been as close of a ball game. And bettors that lost $500,000 because of the Hail Mary and 2-point conversion wouldn't have lost those $500,000 had we kicked the field goals early on. Jason Myers is on an extremely hot streak. We had an opportunity on the road to start with the lead, and instead we get aggressive as if we were playing at home versus an opponent that we're trying to send a message to. Or maybe that's like the type of thing you do at Kansas City if you know you need to score a lot of points in that ball game. We should just take the points against Philadelphia. We're always going to be in the ball game, if not ahead, and those field goals are the difference. I wanted us to kick both field goals at the time. It turns into a bad play call and then a play that doesn't work out. Partially DK Metcalf's fault, partially because Russell Wilson didn't even look to the other side of the field. But regardless, we were unsuccessful on 4th down in that game, and it shouldn't have happened. We should have just kicked field goals, in my opinion. We got to take the points. And if Philly would have taken the points both times, now Philly's just dumb aggressive. Like, watching Philly go for it on 4th and 5 when it's a 2-score game, and they're easily within field goal range, to not take the points there with a struggling offense and to force the ball where there's a miscommunication between Wentz and Goddard and it goes straight to Quandre Diggs. That was a horrible decision, in my opinion. I say both teams. I'm a take the points kind of guy. I want to get your thoughts on this, Asher. What were your takeaways from the game, and do you think Seattle and Philly should have taken the points?
So I just want to say, first off, from a fantasy perspective, could not be happier with Seattle's decision to get shut down on 4th down, because I'm playing against Russell Wilson and Jason Myers this week. And so I was totally thrilled from that perspective. Could not have been happier. Absolute best case scenario for me in that league. I also tied last week in fantasy, which is kind of par for the course of 2020. Just wanted to put that out there. Kind of interesting. But from an analyst perspective, I think it was interesting. I think I would probably lean more towards you, Noah, the take the points. You know, we all know, Seahawks fans know all too well how much success they have when they're at the 1-yard line, and they have to win a game right there if you catch my drift. But no, I think I would agree with you. I would take the points there, but I was pretty satisfied from an analyst's perspective as well, watching the Seahawks be able to get a run game with Chris Carson. I think he makes their offense, like their whole offense, totally different, because I think when they get a better run game, it allows Russell Wilson to do a little better. It opens up play action. It lets him not do as much, which we've talked about in the past is one of the mistakes that the Seahawks need to fix. Is we don't want Russ to cook every single meal in the kitchen. You know, he needs some help from other guys around him, and so Chris Carson is a great way to do that. And the defense, we've been talking smack about this defense from week 1 of Unorthodox Sports, but they're now tied. I looked on Twitter to get some of this information. Twitter's a great source for sports stuff. They're tied for 7th. Seattle is for sacks in the league, so that's definitely something to be proud of. Carlos Dunlap, Jamal Adams, like the move Seattle has made has definitely improved the defense, and being tied for 7th, given how much crud people have been giving them up to this point in the year, is definitely something to be proud of. So there's definitely more room for improvement, like the 4th down play calling and Coach Carroll using 2 timeouts on 4th downs to come up with a play that doesn't even work is definitely questionable. And I'm not saying it was a perfect game by any means, because you have to be almost Kansas City to play a perfect game these days, and not even they can do a perfect game, as we saw with Tampa Bay. But definitely a lot of improvement, and I'm really glad to see their defense is stepping up. And I know playing against Carson Wentz isn't exactly a great showcase, because he leads the league in interceptions and is definitely a turnover machine right now. But seeing, like, a Seahawks fan should definitely be happy with the way the defense is performing, and I think it'll only improve here on out based on how Carlos Dunlap and Jamal Adams have been playing since they got to Seattle.
We gave up 500 yards per game in the month of September and only had 5 sacks, whereas in November, 340 yards per game and 22 sacks. You mentioned it. We're now 7th in the league in terms of a sack total, and last game we had 6. That's one of the keys this week at the New York Giants, or versus the New York Giants, that we'll talk about in just a minute. getting pressure on the quarterback has been huge for us. We're unable to cover down the field at times, but this has helped our secondary tremendously. Bringing in Carlos Dunlap has been huge. Jamal Adams has been huge. We're not resting on our laurels, and that's what has made Seattle still competitive to this point in time. I mentioned it early on in the season. I said this defense only gets better because we're finally getting the chance to build that camaraderie and build that unity with each other that we haven't had earlier on in the season and before, and it's starting to show now. So let's talk about our 3 keys, or just our keys to the victory versus the New York Giants. I already said we need to win the sack battle. We need to take the lead in the ball game and just control it the way that we did against Philly. Take the points early, take the lead, make their offense one-dimensional, and stay two-dimensional offensively. That's what I want Seattle to do. We are a better team than this team, and we need to show it to them by taking the points and taking the lead early. Win the turnover battle is huge against the New York Giants, simply because that's one of the few ways that they'll remain in this game. That is one of the few ways that they'll even have a chance to win this game, is if we have one of those games where it's 4 turnovers to 0 for them, like we had at Buffalo. So if we win the turnover battle, there's no way the Giants are going to beat us. Finally, we need to win the sack battle, like I previously stated. So take the lead, win the turnover battle, and win the sack battle. Aaron, let's go to you.
So, I mean, like you said earlier, the turnover battle is huge. So that was the first thing I wrote down, because we won it last week and we won the game. So I feel like that just kind of continues to be what we should do. And I think we should keep the same offensive plan that worked as well. Is you target DK, you keep on targeting DK, and then when they don't expect it, you give the ball to Tyler. And then when they don't expect that, you run the ball. So if that's our offensive plan, we'll keep winning. And then, like you said, my third one is just take the points. That's all it is. Take lead early. Yeah.
Asher.
Yeah, take the points is definitely one of my keys. If you're in 4th down, and I know sometimes analytics will tell you that it's right to go for 4th and 1, and when you're a QB like Russell Wilson, like sometimes it makes sense to go for it on 4th and 1. It's just very situational going for it, but just having good clock management and good play calling, like they didn't have in those 4th down scenarios against Philadelphia. So if you do want to go for it on 4th down, if you're feeling aggressive, if you're Pete Carroll, then definitely think about that going into the game. They're also without Daniel Jones, I think, this week, because he's hurt with a hamstring, and they don't think he's going to go.
I've heard that he's not supposed to miss time, but if they do, it would be Mac Jones, I believe. Or not Mac Jones, with the Colt McCoy, excuse me.
Colt McCoy, okay. So either way, if Daniel Jones does go, I haven't heard. I think it's kind of day-to-day right now, because it wasn't a major hamstring injury, but... Yeah. He's a more mobile quarterback, and that was one of Seattle's big struggles, like the Josh Allen and the Kyler Murrays of the world. You weren't able to do very well earlier in the season, and so being able to contain him if he does go is a big thing. And then another thing, use DK like he should. He's leading the league in yards for a reason, so just keep doing it. If you're Russell, like let Russ cook. That's why it's a slogan. That's why he wore the apron on Thanksgiving. Like there's a reason people want to let Russ cook, because it's successful. And that's why the Seahawks are on top of the West right now, for good reason, because they have DK Metcalf, they have Russell Wilson performing at a pretty high level right now. Another thing, get the running game going, because we talked about it, how when we let Russ do too much, it kind of leads down a road that Seahawks don't want to go. So getting Chris Carson opening up play action from there, etc. I think they should be fine against New York, because clearly Seattle's the better team here. I don't think anyone will disagree on that.
A battle between 2 division leaders. We'll see which division leader comes out on top. The New York Giants leading the NFC league.
No lies were told here.
And you know what's sad? I sent you guys a video earlier in our little Snapchat group chat of the schedule for the NFC least this week, and it looks like another 4 losses. Should be a sweep against this division. Baltimore, Pittsburgh on the schedule, Seattle, and I forget the 4th team, but it looks like they're going to be in a lot of trouble this week, as they are towards the end of the season. A slugfest, a snail race. We'll see who comes out victorious, but it's almost a loss, because you're going to have the worst pick of the bunch, and you're definitely not going anywhere. there in the playoffs. I do agree with you guys, especially Aaron. We need to get DK involved early and often. We did in that game on the first drive, and it led to some major penalties for the defense. Slay got a penalty. Slay was getting emotional out there. Malik Jackson got emotional and tried to make up for Slay and got another penalty that led to us not converting on fourth down and not getting any points to make them pay for it because of our poor decision making. But I do agree we need to get DK involved early and often. Now, let's talk about our Thanksgiving betting odds. We all agreed that Washington was going to cover against the points and Houston for the points. We also talked about Pittsburgh, and I want to talk about Pittsburgh a little bit now. Pittsburgh versus Baltimore. At the time that we bet the game, Asher and I took the favorite, Pittsburgh, a 3-point favorite, at the time that we did this. And then COVID strikes again. Half of the Baltimore Ravens roster was moved to the COVID list. Now there's a chance that they get back Mark Ingram for this game because of how long this game has been delayed. It's supposed to be played tomorrow. Hopefully that's what's going to happen, but we really don't know yet. So I want to get your guys' thoughts on the delay. Let's start with the Steelers fan. What is your reaction, and what should the results be because of this?
So I don't know what the results should be, but I think the biggest thing for me is I wish the NFL would just make it a little more consistent, because from the outside looking in, it just doesn't seem like it's an even playing field. Like we saw with the Broncos and the Saints game. The Broncos literally had to go get a wide receiver who last played quarterback at Wake Forest in college, in Kendall Hilton. And I want to give my respect to Kendall Hilton, because I could never do that, being a wide receiver and then going in to play quarterback. Like, he deserves all the respect in the world. And he had more interceptions than completions. And I looked it up. The last person to do that was former Washington State quarterback Ryan Leaf, when he went 1 for 15 with 2 interceptions back in, I got the date here, September of '98 against the Chiefs. Got totally rocked that game. But either way, total respect to him for doing something not a lot of people would have the heart to do. But either way, the NFL essentially told the Broncos, okay, yeah, we don't care that your guys made a mistake. You have to go get a quarterback. But with the Ravens, it's like they still got COVID, but we can just delay the game and wait until more guys are healthy. And Lamar Jackson still won't be able to play because of the waiting period or whatever. Yeah. But giving Ravens that grace period and not giving the Broncos, just from an outsider's perspective, it seems like they don't really care about the Broncos as much as the Ravens. And maybe that's because the Broncos aren't a contender this year and they want to give the Ravens a chance. I don't know. I'm just an outsider looking in, and that's just my perspective. I just wish it was more even across the board for teams when it comes to COVID restrictions.
Agreed. There could be forfeits you could force them to forfeit the game. They could try and move it to week 18, but Pittsburgh would be even more upset about that, and I wouldn't blame them for that. I think forfeit should definitely come first. But Aaron, let's go to you. What was your reaction to this game getting delayed all the way through our next show?
Yeah, no, I mean, the way Asher presented it, I never really thought about it like that. Whereas, like, it's like less even for other teams in the NFL. Like for the Broncos, I mean, you don't postpone the game; you just tell them to get a quarterback who was a wide receiver, right? And like that makes, I didn't really think about that. And I think I totally agree with Asher. That would make total sense. It just needs to be completely even throughout the entire NFL. Like it's showing favoritism at this point. And I mean, understandably so. You're talking about the 10-0 Steelers who are about to play the Ravens, that's a rivalry game, right? That's a good rivalry game for those two teams. But when the Broncos go and play, let's see, where are the Broncos at in this division here? They are, good Lord, I can't even find them. Okay, they're 4-7. They were 4-6 before this game.
What are the Ravens? 6-5? Like,
yeah, but dude, it's the Ravens.
Ravens are a wild card team as it stands. Broncos are third in their division.
It's the Ravens, and it's Broncos are third. Yeah, exactly.
I'm not saying it's 100% favoritism, but I just wish it was more even, because this is the second time now the Steelers have had to wait almost a week, because when they played Tennessee back in week 6 or 7 or whatever it was, they had to wait because another team didn't have their COVID situation under control. And now the Steelers are being delayed almost another week again because the Ravens have 100 guys that have contracted COVID. And when you tell when you do that for a team like the Broncos, say, oh yeah, we can't delay it. You got to go to your practice squad if you want to get a quarterback. It just seems uneven to me.
It does. I mean, I agree with that. I mean, I think it should not be like that, obviously, just because, every team should be treated equally by the NFL, right?
Absolutely. Like, even if you're the 4-7 Broncos, like,
or even if you're the 0-11 Jets. Exactly.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. If you're an NFL
respect.
team and someone has COVID, the NFL should say, okay, if we can delay the game, then yes, we can delay it and get you. Or if they want to not delay the games and just say, treat everyone like they did with the Broncos Saints game, like, okay, we can't delay this game. We need to figure it out. And it's really weird with scheduling too, because the Steelers game is now at 3:40, which is like the first time it's ever played. Eastern time. Because they had to put it there because of the NBC Christmas tree lighting ceremony that's afterwards. That's why it's at that time. And so it just needs to be more consistent, I think. And I know COVID has made everything totally messed up, and not everything can be totally in your control. But I think if you at least make an effort, because it didn't seem like the NFL did this week when it came to the Broncos Saints. Like, it just seemed, like, from an outsider's perspective, like, I just want to reiterate that as much as possible. I don't know anything about the leadership of the NFL and what goes on behind closed doors, but at least make it make sense, I think. And just try to make it seem like everyone's on an equal playing field, even if the Broncos aren't going to the playoffs, and even if they don't win another game, they at least deserve to get equal treatment, like the Ravens and the Titans and the Steelers have.
Totally agree. And the more I think about it, I wonder if location of the game has anything to do with it as well. Like, I'm wondering if that plays some kind of role. But maybe it doesn't, and maybe they're just showing favoritism to the teams that are winning and the teams that are getting views. So I don't know.
No, I agree. I feel like every team should be treated equally. I feel like every team should, if you're gonna postpone one game with the Pittsburgh versus Tennessee, I feel like everyone's gotta at least try and postpone their games. Except for the Jets, I would say they should forfeit if they lose anybody, and it's for their own well-being and their own self-pride. Maybe Chicago too at this point with their pride issues as well, but. Let's talk about this game a little bit, just because Aaron controversially took Baltimore against the points. Myself and Asher took Pittsburgh -3. Aaron took Baltimore +3. The rule is, now, if you want to rebet this game, you have to bet the new spread. And the new spread, my friend, Pittsburgh -10. So this is why you bet early on in the week. Pittsburgh was a 3-point favorite. Now Pittsburgh is a 10-point favorite. Aaron, the burden is on you. Do you stay Baltimore -3? Do you just switch it up, Baltimore +3? Do you go Baltimore +10? Or do you go...
But not without Lamar. Not without Lamar. No.
Pittsburgh -10.
I have to. There's nothing without Lamar Jackson. I do not believe the Ravens have a shot at winning this game.
Dude, I would
I just don't.
I would love for Baltimore to lose by like 4 points, like
oh my
7
God,
points, just so that the spread difference is the difference.
So you guys get to keep the -3.
Yep.
But I have to do the -10 now.
Exactly.
Okay. All right.
Man, that's what betting odds early on in the week. That's what it gets.
This is why I don't gamble. This is why I don't gamble.
Just taking out his bet on Sunday, every Sunday. All right, let's switch now. Let's do our top 7 NFL power rankings. Let's start with number 7 on our list. After an impressive victory over the Chicago Bears, I'm putting Green Bay back on my top 7. They still have holes in their run defense, but they're really good team, and they're tied for second in the NFC. So I have to give this to Green Bay at this point in time. Number 7 on my list. Asher.
Let me turn the page here. I wrote two or three full sheets of paper for this show. It was the most I've done. It was kind of weird to have to flip the page, but I have Green Bay at 7 as well. No, I don't want to put them any higher. I think they're a little too inconsistent for me, and I'm a little below because they got blown out by Tampa Bay. They scored 3 points in the second half in overtime against Indianapolis, and I think they're still a little too reliant on the Rodgers-Adams combo, which is a good combo, by the way, but it can only get you so far, like we've talked about with Seattle and DK Metcalf. Like if we let Russ do too much, Seahawks are in trouble. It's the exact same thing for the Packers. If you let Aaron Rodgers do too much, then that leads to some problems. But I like what I saw from Rodgers and Adams against the Bears, against a team that doesn't really have an identity. right now after losing 5 in a row. But I still like what I saw, but I don't want to put them any higher than 7 right now.
Aaron.
So funny story, Asher. I don't have the same one as you for starting at number 7 this week. So that's good. Yeah,
He always
switching
has
up. Noah, I'm not talking about you. Okay, this is between Asher and I.
Mr. Studio Girl, that's the problem, Aaron. I took your girl, boy.
I got Tampa at number 7 just because I was going back and forth between them and Green Bay, but I mean just because the Buccaneers blew out the Packers early on in the season, I feel like they still deserve the spot above them, and I think they could beat them again if they had to.
Okay, you know what? I like that argument because I hate Green Bay a lot more than I hate Tampa, so I accept this notion. Number 6, I go to Buffalo. I still think Buffalo would beat Green Bay if and when they play head-to-head, because Buffalo has a rushing attack when they need it, and Green Bay struggles at defending the run. So I take Buffalo over Green Bay as of right now. Asher, let's go to you.
I will put the Titans at number 6. Total domination of the Colts through and through. Henry with 3 touchdowns. Tannehill on a roll with a passing touchdown in 9 straight games. A.J. Brown had a really good game. They're starting to bounce back because they had a couple bumps in the road, if you will. The Pittsburgh loss when they missed the field goal, losing to Cincinnati. No one probably expected that, but they've been able to bounce back, and they've had a few good offensive showings since then. And the game against Indianapolis just totally worked Indianapolis. Those all 4 quarters, and I was really impressed with Tannehill and Derrick Henry too, for that matter. Derrick Henry's kind of like the DK Metcalf of running backs. I feel just so big and physical, and he's just get out of my way.
I agree. Yeah.
I think it's a reasonable comparison. Similar height, similar build. I would say just different positions. Here's the thing, Derrick Henry. It's like, what if you flip the positions? We get DK running the ball and we get Henry catching. Wouldn't that be something?
It would work. Like they probably could do it. Honestly, that's the thing.
They could.
They could.
Yeah.
I've been a big proponent.
6. I like what I've seen from him.
I've been a big proponent of DK running the football, but we don't do that. We need to. Aaron, let's go to you. Number 6 on your list.
I got my Seattle Seahawks down there, number 6, just because I feel like I'm comfortable enough putting them back on my top 7, but no higher than 6, just because they beat the Eagles. That's it. That's really all I got for that.
Well said.
But just because, and Russell and DK had a great game last week, and I think if that continues, I will feel more comfortable putting them up higher and hopefully get them back up to my number 1 spot again.
Let's go to number 5 on our list. That's where I put the Los Angeles Rams. I don't care that they lost this week. Kansas City lost to the Las Vegas Raiders, and the Raiders just got blown out by the Falcons. That does not mean the Falcons are better than the Chiefs. This does not mean the Niners are better than the Los Angeles Rams. I think the Rams are a really good team that found their divisional match, and every year the Rams beat us and the Niners beat the Rams. So I'm not going to hold it against the Rams. It was still a close game. They still had a chance. I have the Rams number 5 on my list. Asher.
Yeah, I was a little more disappointed than you, because I'll just say right now I left the Rams out of my list. I just didn't like them losing to the Niners. Aaron, I see you agreeing with me, and I do think the Rams are a good team just after the way they played, or the way they failed to really play, because we've seen their ceiling this year. They're definitely a really good team, like you said. When Goff and Kupp and Woods combined for 200 whatever yards they had last week, like they're a team that can play with just about anyone. But when you play against the Niners, who are playing with a bunch of injured guys and second stringers, because we all know all the injuries that have taken out, like the Fred Warners and the Nick Bosas of the world and the Garoppolos all being hurt. And I think San Francisco definitely pulled it out for sure. I wanted to give them credit. It was a good win. But if you're the Rams, I think you should expect to win that game. And I just think it was just a mismatch, like you said. The 49ers and everyone else in the league meets their match eventually. But I think I was a little more lower on the Rams than you. But I'll leave them out. I have Seattle at 5, and I'll put them there. I was a little more impressed, I think, than you, Aaron. You said you didn't want to put them higher than 6. I was a little more impressed at the fact that they're tied for 7th in sacks after how much crud we've been talking about them all season. And so I really liked what I saw, despite them winning by so little points and them not covering the spread. Like I talked to you guys about that guy who lost $500,000 because of that conversion. Just Unreal. Absolutely hate to see it. But yeah, I really like what I saw. And DK being able to come out of the week leading the league in yards, that really impressed me too. I think they've gotten a lot better from the last couple weeks for sure.
Aaron, let's go to you.
I got the Tennessee Titans at number 5, just because, like, Asher, you had them at number 6, right?
Yeah.
Our
6 and 5 are switched.
Yeah, like for basically the same reasons you said earlier. I'm just impressed with how they did this last week. Just Derrick Henry absolutely manhandling, and plus they're at the top of the AFC South now, and so I believe that they deserve a spot up there because they're tied for, I guess they're tied for third in the AFC, but that's just to the Chiefs and Steelers, who I think is a great, like two much better teams, and so that's why I think they deserve a number 5 spot for me.
Let's go to number 4 now on our list, right in the middle of our list. That's where I put Tennessee. I still got a lot of faith in these guys. I really like this team. I think if there's someone that's able to keep a Kansas City or a Pittsburgh from making the AFC Championship game, Tennessee's a team. And I really look forward to seeing what this team is able to do. I have Tennessee number 4 on my list. Asher.
This is probably my weirdest pick and probably the hottest take of this week's rankings. I got the Bills at 4. I really like the trick play from the passing touchdown from Cole Beasley, and we saw it a couple weeks ago. Josh Allen with the receiving touchdown. Like they have such a deep playbook, and they're able to make it work week in and week out. And I really like what Josh Allen's been doing. Stephon Diggs kind of teetered off. We saw it goes Metcalf, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce for league leaders in yards, and that used to be Stephon Diggs, so he's teetered off a little. But I like where the Bills are at right now. They're 8-3. They should win their division, and they've looked good the last couple weeks. So I'll put them at 4.
Interesting. You put them behind Tennessee, who blew them out.
Hey, different teams, man. Teams change over the course of a season.
Fair point. Aaron, let's go to you.
Oh wait, Asher, did you say that was a hot take because they should be higher or lower?
I feel like a lot of people will put them lower, especially given that Tennessee beat them out or blew them out earlier in the season.
Yeah.
But it's a valid argument for sure.
I think you're gonna like my number 3 pick then, but I got the New Orleans Saints at number 4.
Interesting.
Just
Really?
because, I mean, 9-2 is a great record. Their schedule has been the hardest, but they're leading their division and they're doing great, and they're just gonna keep winning. Alvin Kamara leads them in rushing and receiving yards, so he keeps up what he's doing. He's got a good chance at getting them a solid playoff run, I feel like.
No question about it. Hopefully, the Saints, this year, maybe they can get over their postseason woes, because every year they've kind of been set for a solid postseason run and never seem to find a way to get it done. I would love to see them get upset again, just for the record. The number 3 team on my list, New Orleans. I hope to see them get upset, but you sung their praises, so I'll pass it to Asher, but I like New Orleans better than you guys do, and I have them number 3.
Yeah, I also have New Orleans at 3. They can win with anyone. Taysom Hill with another 2 rushing touchdowns, and I know Denver is hurting without Von Miller on defense, but Taysom Hill's getting it done against the people he's lining up against. And Alvin Kamara only had, I think, 6 or so fantasy points, but Latavius Murray did a really good job filling in for him with a more productive role. I started him because James Conner got COVID, gave me 25 fantasy points. He's given me a chance this week. We'll see what happens. But 2 rushing touchdowns from your backup is really, really good numbers for the New Orleans. They're able to do it with anyone, as we've seen with Taysom Hill, Latavius Murray. Even when Alvin Kamara doesn't do much in the run game, they're still able to put up 31 points against the Broncos. So I really like where they're going. And when they get Drew Brees back, and when Michael Thomas starts to get a couple more looks per game, because they're trying to work him in. They don't want to overload him coming off that injury. But I like New Orleans at 3, and I, for the record, do not want to see them get upset like that non-PI call a couple years ago in their playoffs. I'm a big Saint. I'm not a Saints fan per se. I like Drew Brees though, and I want to see him go back to the Super Bowl.
See, that's the other thing. I root for them, but I still want to see them get upset, just because they're not my team. Aaron, let's go to you. Your number 3 team.
I got the Buffalo Bills as number 3 just because I think they're an overall better team than the Saints. I think Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs are a dynamic duo, and Josh Allen is absolutely nuts. He's got 3,000 passing yards this season. Crazy. He's having one hell of a season for a guy who's somewhat of a young quarterback in this league still, right? And he can run with the ball too. He makes smart decisions. He's fast. He's mobile, and he can throw. He's got a cannon for an arm too. This dude can get a ball down the field, and so I think. And last week, seeing that trick play that they threw was great, and that was a slight reason I put them above the New Orleans Saints, because that trick play was fun to watch.
They make trick plays work. I don't know how, but they do.
I don't get it, dude, but I like it, and so that's why I got the Bills number 3.
Well, guys, we have reached pretty much the end of the show, and we're at the end of our power rankings list. Is it safe to assume that it's staying the same that it has been, because these two teams haven't played each other and nothing's really changed?
Really quick, I flipped mine. I got Chiefs at 1 this week just because I was impressed with how Tyreek Hill and Pat Mahomes performed against the Bucs defense.
True.
I just want to say this: if they want the 1 seed, they need to win out. I think if they want to beat the other one for the 1 seed, but it's a coin flip every single week because Pittsburgh's undefeated, but a lot of people think Kansas City and Mahomes are a little better. But it's a coin flip every single week. They're both playing really good right now.
And it's staying the same for you, Aaron?
Yeah, I got Pitt number 1 and Kansas City number 2.
And I'm staying the same with Kansas City 1, Pittsburgh number 2. Follow me on Instagram at DJSQUABO. Asher, would you please share your social media?
Yeah, Asher_lined, I think, on Insta, and then just literally search my name. I'm probably the only Asher lined on planet Earth. I would put money on it.
I would not take that action. Aaron, let's go.
I wouldn't either.
I've never seen him.
At Aaron Monson on Instagram, at Aaron__Monson on Twitter. Go follow me. Maybe I'll follow you back.
Fellas, it's been a great show. Maybe. Hopefully. It's been a great show. As always, this has been your home for Cougar and Seahawks on Cougar Sports and Seahawks football on YouTube, Unorthodox Sports.
Have a good night, everyone.